All right, this is the real one. At the end of BoJack Horseman, a show about a famous anthropomorphic horse person, season 2, he's running up a hill. He's gone through. It's been a while since I've seen the show, so I kind of forget the specifics here. But he's gone through addiction, the perils of fame, so to speak. And he's running up this hill to better himself for one reason or another, and he's suffering. I remember running my first quarter of a mile over COVID, and it was like, oh, this sucks. I hate this. I was gasping for air. I was also 40 pounds heavier than I used to be, 40 pounds heavier than I am now. And this video isn't quite about that, but it's more about when BoJack gets to the top of the hill, this monkey comes up to him because BoJack's collapsed. He's on the ground. And this monkey man comes up to him and says, it gets easier. But you got to do it every day, and that's the hard part. And I haven't really thought about this in a while. But I think the season just kind of ends there. It's like a 2-minute clip on YouTube. Would highly recommend you watching it. And there's just this notion that is kind of how it works. It's not that things are objectively hard, but it's the doing them that's hard. It's the doing it every day. It's the sitting down and the starting. And I think, while I haven't thought about this for quite a little while, it's come back to me now. Because it's January 4th, and I've set this resolution, this non-results oriented resolution, to work on an hour of game development every morning. And so far, so good. We're actually 7 days in. I started a few days early. Now, this morning was my first quote-unquote scare, just because of where my mentality was. But a couple days ago, and I wrote this down as I do with my notes for this little quote-unquote show here, Fractured Thinking, welcome back. We're putting together Hokusai's The Great Wave because I'm obsessed with this artist. And we're doing on Tabletop Sim. The music today is Sessions Diana. Riot Games has posted this for free. I found it a little while ago. Very amazing work music to lie down to and think to. It's great. Anyway, pretty much the New Year's resolution is every day this year, wake up, shower within 15 minutes of waking up. The first 30 seconds be cold. Do an hour of game development. Now I'm taking care of my mom's dog, for example, for a couple days. So I shower, walk the dog, then do game development. And these exceptions are literally written in. If I'm traveling, find 30 minutes at any point in the day, do your game development. And so far, so good. But I think there's this, how do I put this? There's a fear that I am going to fail, right? A fear that at some point all the old demons are going to come back and they're going to prevent me from doing some game development. Even though it's pretty easy. Easy is not the right word, but I'd say that running these days for me is easy. It still can be physically taxing. It still is. But I remember my first run gasping for air after a quarter of a mile down the bike path. And then 2 years later or so, I remember just thinking, going on a run and being like, this is kind of nice. And just a couple weeks ago, I was going to jiu-jitsu class and I walked outside and I saw the bus was going to be late. And I was like, it's so nice out today. I'm just going to run. And it took me years to get to that point. And that's a habit that can fall off as any other. And it's not like I run every day anymore. But it's the doing it every day that's not only the hard part, but the scary part. And this BoJack Horseman quote, statement, feeling, whatever you want to call it, kind of came back to me. I forget what exactly spawned it. But it was like, oh, hold on a second. That quote's not about running or the physical at all. That quote is entirely about the mental game that you have to play with yourself. Now, I used to listen to David Goggins, and, I think he is an extreme. But I do also believe that self-discipline is incredibly valuable. And, I'm doing these jigsaw puzzles wrong. I'm looking for the one piece, but it's because I can't find it. Like, I can't group this and think logically through the puzzle while I'm talking about things. So I apologize, because I know that can kind of be frustrating to watch. But if you're listening, amazing. But anyway, just realizing that it's completely about the mental game. And, the game development, it's hard. It's everything that you choose to do and attempt to become excellent at will be difficult. And in my experience, dare I say, the things that you choose to do like this are difficult because you choose to seek excellence. Someone who's talented, as much as I don't love the word, might not see something as entirely difficult when they first start. But that you will, no matter who you are, you will hit a ceiling eventually. I hate to break it to you, but it's going to happen. Seeing as I'm not a talented individual, I hit my ceiling kind of early. I hit my ceiling constantly. I feel like this goes at the rising of the wave. And hitting that ceiling is like, it's annoying. Oh, these don't fit exactly, do they? Does that mean these don't fit exactly? Hold up. No, that looks right. Well, we'll keep going. Maybe doing a jigsaw puzzle while trying to talk about this wasn't quite right, but also I'm feeling this music. That's the piece I was looking for earlier. Anyway. It's difficult, but it gets easier, is fully the mentality. And I don't know what exactly it is. I don't think anyone does. And anyone claiming to maybe doesn't know I don't know. We should also sort all the boat pieces, huh? But it does get easier. It's just you have to use self-discipline to a certain extent to get there. Now, this is something I've spoken about in the last couple of fractured thinkings. In fact, fractured thinking is something I use that actually really helped me here. But to get out of I'm going to call it burnout. For me, it was professional. And it really affected every element of my life. I feel like I totally stalled. And I was afraid to do game development. Like I didn't want to look at code. I hated it. It sucked because, I genuinely like what I do, and I'm lucky in that sense that I get to enjoy what I do. And the thing is, this morning, I think I was probably the most apprehensive I have been to date. And it's nice when you don't have a choice. I haven't given myself a choice. It's not that I have to do game development every day. It's that I have to do it at a certain period. And to me, when failure is immediately evident, it is very effective. There were times in college when I would procrastinate because I knew that I just wouldn't do something unless failure was, there gets a point where you choose, if you don't do this right now, you will fail. Not, oh, you have an opportunity later. But I will say it is getting easier already. My mentality is flipping from this idea of, oh my God, I have to do these things, in order to leave something behind. Oh my God, I have to do these things because I always said I would. I want to make my, 17-year-old self proud. And through some struggles and limiting circumstances, I have learned what I want out of life to a certain extent. But that doesn't mean doing it is easy. I do believe that there are people out there who leap out of bed every morning excited to do what they do. I'm not one of those people. And I gave up on being one of those people a very long time ago. Maybe not a very long time ago, but it feels like it. And I think that's okay. I don't think that's necessarily bad. But it's just not who I am. And there are also people who, I'll choose to reframe this. Life is the delusion we choose to believe in. Everything is fickle, and we can't care about everything. We cannot give equal care to everyone. Otherwise, nobody's special in some sense. And so there are people who deeply care about the systems that they are a part of. There's nothing wrong with that. But I attempted to force myself and believe in a position I had found myself in and how great it was, how lucky I was. But the discord that I felt internally from forcing myself through that was insane and completely wore me down. Completely. Especially considering what I felt I had to give up. And I'm sure I could have forced myself through that even more, as unhealthy as it would have been. And maybe I'd wake up 10 years from now and realize it was all miserable. But I chose a path of trying to create my own delusion. And it sucks. Currently. This is not past tense. The only redeeming factor is that there are brief moments where that's definitely not it. I feel like I made the correct call. Like this game development thing, all of a sudden I'm posting these updates just to a friend and a little bit to my Discord, to the Oink Discord. And that's been pretty cool. He says as he focuses trying to get these two pieces together. That's definitely it. And it's reminded me where this is fun. That I enjoy trying to program a system for this functionality of a typing game, right? That I have the know-how to even do this in the first place. I'm super lucky to be able to say all those things. And I think I can finally see that again, which is nice. But that, again, I say all this because it doesn't mean everything has magically become easy and that I want to do them. I think for so long I confused what it meant to want to do something. And I was really confused by that whole idea. But anyway, there are things that everyone wants to do, wants to have. If your, how do I put this? If your goals in life are to be famous or be rich, I kind of envy you. These are not bad things, inherently and alone. But I believe them to be elements of the system we live in. What is money and riches when the stock market doesn't exist or you are the only person on the planet? I think if we're the only person alone, a lot of humanity gets questioned. So maybe I won't go there. It's a little dicey, as the kids would say. I don't know what kid is saying dicey, but here we are. Can't tell if this is the left or the right side of the bow. I'm going to assume it's like this. Anyway, I want to make games. And For a long time, I was obsessed with the result, and I've spoken about this in the past, fractured thinking, so I'm going to start to speak a little fast through this little contextualization. But in effect, a couple months ago, I came up with this idea, make one game prototype a month in 2026, buckle down and finally do it, because I keep saying I'll do it. Just can check off these boxes. I've spent enough time dilly-dallying and wasting my time. And yet, it just didn't feel right. And I knew that because of my quote-unquote recent experiences, I need to be careful. I need to not completely ruin myself again. And so a month ago, I said, okay, let's focus it on behavior. And I spoke a lot about this in the last Fractured Thinking, where I came up with the plan about it, where it's all about, what we want to do before we die to not injure, let's not waste time so that we do not injure eternity. And the one before that, I spoke about taking things in life seriously and how that can be fun, meaningful, important. And I'm taking this game development thing in the morning very seriously. It feels like when I do not do it, I fail. Now, some people might say, don't be so hard on yourself. To which I say, shut the fuck up. There's a difference between being hard on yourself and choosing to live life with a certain intensity. That intensity doesn't need to exist all the time. But there's nothing wrong with living like that. Maybe that's my toxic trait. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I'm finally doing the things I say I'm doing. And I am scared that somehow my mind will trick itself into believing that these things are not actually what I want to do. And I will stop believing in doing them, which is a really weird thing to say, I think. It just sounds bizarre. Like, what do you mean? You really want to do this thing, so why not just do it? It's just self-discipline, right? Is this for, and then, is this them? Or is this them? It's these guys, okay. Oh, wait, yeah, these are literally bottom pieces. Oh, my brain needs to compute this. Okay, so this is in the wrong spot. These are also in the wrong spot. No way these fit right here. Oh, that's beautiful. I'm actually so good at puzzles. I'm just kidding. Anyway. I don't know. Point is, it's like I've dug deep, and one of the things I wrote down on my little task here, and this was a realization I had today, was that I spent so much of my life running away from like some nightmare. And is the music not playing? Maybe it's just dimming. Either way, I can edit it in post. I spent so much of my life running away from some nightmare. And that nightmare was my own, body weight image. That nightmare was never having made something, was not drawing, was being bad at art. It's pretty simplistic back then. But the point was I was living that nightmare. That's not true. I was not living a version of myself I was content with, to say the least. And for some reason or another, and I'm sure many people relate with this, but it's like sometimes no matter how hard you try, it's just like your brain will always fall to the short-term pleasures of life. And recognizing it is an incredibly difficult thing. So if you're able to recognize it, you're getting somewhere. But you gotta recognize it first. Anyway, back on topic. What was I saying? Oh yeah, running away from a nightmare. Now, what I realize is that I don't know if I have any dream. I don't really know if I have a dream. But what I do have is knowledge of some version of me that exists in my head. Some concept where I can picture myself and think, that guy's pretty cool. I want to be that guy. Now, this is a bit of a weird one. I think it's this, but I can't figure out where this is. It right here? There we go. Because in a way, I think what it sounds like, when I hear myself say this, I'm like, well, there you go, dude. That's your dream, is to be that person, right? And I think part of the quote unquote problem is that for so long, I saw a dream as like something you have, something you obtain. You're a rock star. You obtain all this fame or something like that. What the heck? Oh. And the thing is, I don't have one dream. And I envy, Haikyuu. When I watched Haikyuu, the anime, the volleyball anime, I was like, that's what I want. I want to find that one thing. And so for a little while, I set out and did a whole slew of things. Because I figured, well, the time's going to pass anyway. I didn't figure that. I read a quote. And the best way I can explain that in retrospect now is, well, the time's going to pass anyway. So I might as well do this. Do all these different things. Because even if I make it to the end of my life, at least I can say I tried to find these things. And, that was comforting for a time. But ultimately, I don't really think I found that one thing. And I don't know if it's out there or not. But what I do know is that when I close my eyes and I try to put together an image of who I might be in the future, and I have a couple fractured thinkings and old VGTs and the future self, but it's a vision. It's a vision. I can see the future. Where I am some person. And just before the new year started, I think this might have been, actually, now that I'm recalling these events, this might have been the catalyst for why I wrote this idea down for this episode of the show. I realized that I was closing my eyes, and for perhaps the first time in at least recent memory, I didn't think to myself, or I didn't see a version of me that had done things. It wasn't a version of me that had released a hit video game. Granted, it was a version of me that was known for doing stuff and making stuff online, but it's about the behavior that defined me getting to that point, so to speak. And that got me up off my ass and do my first little bit of game development and start off and just say, screw it, I'm going to do it tonight. And hey, if I fail tomorrow, that's a day earlier for failure. But at the same time, it was like, no. Don't allow for failure. Now, I believe that failure is an inherent part of the process of learning in general. So please don't misconstrue my words here. Pretty please, for people who are listening and watching. I would not have gotten to where I am today, so to speak, if I hadn't been okay with failure. I'm very okay with failing. What I'm not okay with is not putting in the effort. If I get to, the end of my days and I'm like, well, at least I tried, that's cool with me. As long as I had an interesting story that I attempted to tell, that's cool with me. As long as I take these stories in my head and at least try to get them out of my head, that's cool with me. The creator of One Piece and every manga in existence has been writing their stories for years and drawing their stories for years without repent. I mean, sure, there are volume breaks and whatever, but like, you have to accept that the hard stuff can come easy, but the easy stuff does not come easy. I think it was like Stephen King said he writes 6 pages a day. Dan Brown writes every day at 4 a.m. or something. And I decided to make my thing an hour of game development every morning. And this morning I even went an extra half hour. And admittedly, this morning, I think one of the hard parts was that I left off yesterday having like finished something. And so this morning was kind of like I had to also kind of figure out where I was picking back up. You know what I'm trying to say. Where I wanted to pick up again. What is happening? My brain is absolutely bombarding me. Anyway, I don't love that all of these pieces are so uniform, because that's exactly what happens when they are. Like, that's clearly just a lot of repeated shapes. I get why they do it programmatically, but it's a little whatever. Anyway, what was I saying? And so the easy stuff is hard, and the hard stuff can be easy. Running is easy now. And I guess to come back to my whole point with the BoJack Horseman thing, or at least my big realization, was that I literally kind of took it as, when you run, it's genuinely kind of painful at first. Because your body's like, what are you doing to me? There is no predator chasing me. Why are we running? When you draw and you do drawing lessons, even then there's a little bit of like, why are we doing this? Instead of the short-term dopaminergic, whatever. Found ya. Now, I do believe. Sorry. Okay, doing a puzzle while doing this is kind of difficult, but it's also a very fascinating challenge for me to have taken on. The thing is, the quote's about everything. There's this guy who does these, I think he probably still does them, but he's like writing a game engine in C++ and streams for like 10 hours. And I remember tuning into one a while ago, and he was like, dude, it was like, I clicked around, and I get to this point where he's like, you say no to that pizza once, and then it becomes easier after that. But it's those first couple of times that are painful and hard. And I guess for me, there's almost a sense of peace that it will eventually become easy. And you have to believe that. When there's despair, there is hope. It just might not reveal itself immediately. And you really have to be willing to believe. I don't think there's an alternative, as much as I hate to say it. I kind of locked in on these pieces here, I think. Yeah. Bro, clocked it. In a way, I think realizing that running became easy and certain things became easy made me understand that, oh my God, it kind of does get easier. And I've lived this. But it did take an immense amount of telling myself I cannot be who I am right now. And funnily enough, the last month or so, I've realized, oh, I do kind of have to accept myself, don't I? And that's been its whole other realization. And if you're curious about more, let me know, and I can prattle on about that. But it was this, God, I just tried that. Is it these people? No. They're leaning over for sure. It's driving me crazy. Yeah, because we're missing a fourth person here. Maybe it's like this. That's why I think it's over here. I'm totally wrong on that, though. It's okay. It's okay, Mark. Relax. Relax. I've lived this and seen it become easy. And with the game development, too, I'm kind of feeling it being easy. And for a little while there, I was also led to believe that I had to light this fire within me and become passionate. And this is why I say I struggle with the idea of passion. Because the amount of effort it takes for me to, have that anime moment where you're like, yeah, My Hero Academia, Deku wanting to become a hero. I don't have that. That desire to be one specific thing, I don't have it. And so when I don't even think I finished this thought, but when I had that image of myself pop up, it wasn't of someone who was just doing whatever in a world where he had, sold a best-selling game. It was someone who woke up one morning and didn't have game development, even though he was traveling, and it was like 6 years after now. He still chose to do that because that's just the way it is. And I love that. I have a dog next to me, so if you hear him growling, Max, hi buddy. I think he's mad that I'm talking to technically nothing. There's a guy's head on the top of this piece, and that's kind of what I'm looking for here, and it's bothering me. Dude, relax. Anyway, am I literally hovering over it? No, you need an edge piece, my guy. You need an edge piece. But this looks like it can go here. Got him. An edge piece that goes up and to the left. Well, that should be doable, right? And yeah, it's just this New Year's resolution is about behavior. Right? Got him. Clocked it. It's about finally trying to just be okay with the slow growth of things. So much of just the world we live in is just like, you have to be successful now and as soon as possible. You must have a good career and blah, blah, blah. And maybe I'm lucky in the sense that, well, I'm definitely lucky. I've been dealt some lucky cards, but I can't say that I'm very fortunate that I have had the opportunity in which I've had a successful career thus far. The problem is I just don't buy into it. I like my current job and I work with some great people, and there's a vast opportunity to learn. But I just don't. If someone says, hey, if you do this, you'll get promoted, that does nothing to me. In jiu-jitsu, hey, if you learn this, you'll get your blue belt. That doesn't mean anything to me. The promotion is significant, don't get me wrong, because it means that I can compete at a higher level. It means that my coach sees me at a certain level, we'll say. This is 100% a boat piece. Yeah. But the promotion itself, whether I compete or not, belt color doesn't matter. Whether I show up to class 3 and 4 times a week, doesn't matter what color belt I am. It's going to happen. I'm going to be there as much as I effectively can. Oh, this music is so good. Honestly, I could just sit here and do a jigsaw puzzle and not talk. That's kind of why I'm just like being I'm okay with being chill on this. I feel like there are so many times where I have to have a certain, words spoken or whatever. But, maybe you're listening along. Let me know if you're listening along, what you're doing. Leave a comment. I think one of my goals as well this year is to find more podcasts, because I keep telling myself I'll draw while I watch TV, and then I, get more interested in the TV itself, which is not a surprise. But this game development thing, it's going to get harder before it gets easier. There are going to be moments. And what's great is that this thing works backwards, right? Where I go, okay, so for example, on Saturdays, I have MMA at 9:30. I need to leave around 9. And I did my hour of game development before. It was great. But what happens is that I'm like, okay, I need to get to bed on time so that I can wake up at 7 to walk the dog, to then do my game development and then go to class. YouTube can wait. But the thing is, that worked once. Will it work again? It better. Like, it has to. And I've somehow created a delusion that I believe in. It's very bizarre to create a delusion that you believe in when you don't think you're really capable of that. Because I lost faith in all of the delusions for a little while there. But I'm glad that I can create a delusion that I believe it. Oh, that's so close. It's got to be like here or something. Wait, no, that doesn't make any sense. That's got to be one of the cresting waves. Yeah. Does that mean this is up here too? No, it doesn't make any sense. Oh, this is here. This has to go this way. Yeah. Is that it? Yeah, buddy. Dang. That one I'm kind of like, yo, did you see that? Oh, okay. I almost just ruined it. Yeah, did you see that? Completely destroys everything in a moment. If you're listening and you didn't see that, I got a puzzle piece and I'm just pleasantly surprised at how accurate I was. Anyway. Let's check my Todoist task notes. I think there, when I mentioned that note about this morning being difficult because it was, I had the moment where I was like, I don't know where I'm starting off. And today I very intentionally made sure to leave off at a point where I know exactly what I need to do next. And, I went down a little planning rabbit hole of game mechanics, but it was for good reason. This has to be down here. The laws of deduction require to be true. Yeah. And there's value there, but I think talking more about that gets into this realm of like productivity guru tips, where it's like, you have to make sure that you always write stop writing when you know what's about to come next. And there's a lot of truth to that. And I think it's just because it makes it so much easier to sit down when you're like, okay, I am excited to tackle this problem again. I'm excited to start this drawing again. Whatever it might be for you. Now, the other thing I have on here that I do kind of want to talk about a little bit is the assumption that you will do the thing, assuming that is true. You know, in mathematics, it's like assume x is an odd number, right? Assume you in a mathematical proof, you have to state like assume line A and B are parallel before you can say anything about them, really. And in that sense of making a proof, you have to... Oh, I really could have sworn that one right here. Evidently, I am wrong. What if you live in a world, right, where you assume, and I think that I kind of did this accidentally with the whole game development thing, is that I am going to do game development is a precursor to what I am going to do. Now, there's an amazing illustrator. He has since passed, Kim Jung-gi, Korean illustrator, absolutely incredible, just drawings from the mind. If you haven't heard of him, you probably have. But B, just look him up real quick. You'll learn something, inevitably. If not, you'll feel inspired. But I think it was a year ago. No, not quite. Because I was working at my current new job. And I had to, I was working on something for X. And I had to make an X account. And I was like, okay, let me think of the first, Kim Jung-gi belonged to started a group called Super Annie. And so I followed their Twitter accounts. And on the anniversary of his passing, someone posted one of his good friends, I would assume, posted a picture. And the caption was, it was a picture of Jung-gi. And the caption was, "What will we draw today, my friend?" Or it was like, "How I will miss you saying, what will we draw today, my friend?" And aside from the fact that like this actually made me go like, damn, I'm sad now. I think it planted the seed of, okay, I'm developing a game. I know it's, types letter. What am I going to work on? And what's important for me personally, because I'm, such a planner, is that I will sit there and plan meticulously, and then I don't act. My current working theory is that I plan so much that I give myself an accidental reward. That's like effectively the same as having done it, but then I don't. Actually, I haven't done it, right? And that's kind of terrible. It's a bad feeling. Because then you're sat there feeling like you did something and then realizing that you didn't, and you crash from that. But the whole, what will we draw today? It's something I have told myself on more than one occasion. This artist I didn't find out about until after his passing has inspired me through what he had said to his friend when they went to draw. That's just incredibly powerful in general. But that aside, I was going to say there's no way I clocked that, but this is like definitely one of the crests here. That looks right. Let's see if I can follow some lines here. This notion of just, okay, what will I draw today? I've assumed I'm going to draw. And it's not like this is necessarily easy when you're trying to do something new, right? Kim Jung-gi drew every day of his life. I don't know how to phrase it. I don't know him, right? So I can't speak about him really. But he did this like sketchbook tour, an interview with Proko, another artist YouTuber, a while ago, And I was watching that recently too. And like, there's just this, there's a conviction, I think I might dare say. Where on earth, dude, does this piece go? How is this a side piece? Is it a side piece? Am I hallucinating? I think something's wrong over here. Anyway. Oh my God, this is not in the right. What? How did I even think that was remotely accurate? What the heck? Yeah, this, awkward. There we go. And I mean, I've been programming for a long time, but I never did it every day, and work made it a chore. And I think, finally, I grew to not like it in university a little bit, and I had my own journey with programming and software engineering. But when you something do it every day, something. I guess what I want is not a result per se, but is truly a behavior. That's kind of what I want out of my life. Is that I want to make sure I look back on a day, and I mean, who doesn't, right? There's no one out there who wants to look back on a day and not have spent it well. I just want to make sure that I'm like, man, what am I going to do today? Oh, I'm going to develop tomorrow. What am I going to develop? I'm going to work on this part of the system for TypeSlider. And I just love this mentality because it, if we say that you have to do it every day, it gets easier, but that's the hard part. You have to do it every day, as our monkey friend says. Then yeah, what am I even talking about anymore? I'm losing my mind. I think it's also starting. I think you can say the same thing about starting. It does get easier to start, but you gotta do it consistently. Does that not look like it fits? Am I going crazy? No, it definitely does not fit. It's actually this way. No, it's not. It's here. Cool. Creation is a constant struggle for me. It's just, in some sense, I wish someone could come along and convince me to just, no, man, career is all that matters, bro. I don't know. I mean, I obviously wouldn't be who I am today if that were the case. And that would certainly be an easier life because you just can believe in things. Believe in the system that society has built up around you. Blah, 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 blah. But it's the hard things that are worth it. And I believe that over time, with time and consistent effort and discipline, and knowing that there are going to be days when I wake up and do not want to do anything productive, that is the most crucial time. And what I have started now will be what carries me. Whatever I have forged now will continue to grow and stronger and stronger. That is all I can ask for. And to start with I just have to believe that it can actually happen. And so I remain fearful. But at the end of the day, it's not the development that's difficult. Like, objectively, drawing is difficult, development is difficult, running is difficult, yes. They are taxing things. They require learning, and learning is inherently masochistic. But they themselves are not difficult, because even if I sit there staring at a blank page that is drawing, sitting here with my head in my hands for 10 minutes trying to figure out if I need to use a second grid system to render obstacles and entities and then draw them over the current game is still game development, because I am doing something. But if you're not doing it, you're not doing it. And it really is just, you got to sit down every day. You got to get your butt out the door every day. Eventually. And again, I experienced this with running. And I simply have to believe that it will happen again. But if I strong arm myself, and again, I'm not doing something that makes me miserable. 10, 15 minutes into game development and I've forgotten about the outside world until my little timer goes off and says, hey, stop. But I do have to believe that eventually it will become a good default activity. Like today, I sat down in the evening to do some, and I started getting frustrated, and I immediately was like, okay, stop. Like, don't let this be the thing that you remember tomorrow. Anyway, I'm going to end with that. Sorry I didn't finish this puzzle. Next time on Fractured Thinking, I'll wrap it up. Thanks for watching or listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. You can shoot me questions on email, mobkinz@pm.me, and I'll, record and answer them. If you make a New Year's resolution, post in the comments and come back in a year and write how it went for you. Because it will get easier for both your body, for the physical things, and your mind, and your intellect and everything. But there's got to be some part of you that says, come on, let's do it. There's got to be a part of you that pushes. Have a good one. And as always, thanks so much for watching. I've been your host or player one, Mark or mobkinz78. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.